Welcome back to the Birdhouse Dynasty show, and today we've got some trades, some rookie rankings, lots of fun, but I'd be remiss being a Dynasty show if I didn't start things off with the big Rashee Rice news of this morning. Found out that last evening he was apparently possibly out riding, at least it was his vehicle, that got into a 6-car pileup out on the Dallas freeway. So, guess, what do we do with Rashee Rice? Even if you don't own him, this is possibly a great opportunity to buy him if you were looking to get him before this incident. But now there's a lot of questions. First of all, was he actually in the vehicle? Second of all, was he driving it? Next, were there people hurt, injured, killed? Who knows? Hopefully not, but this eerily seems similar to the Henry Ruggs incident of a few years ago, but doesn't seem quite as bad as what happened to Mr. Ruggs. So I just want to hear your thoughts down below. Go ahead and leave a comment what you think. Is Rashee Rice a buy, sell, or just a hold for the time being? Let me know. But let's move on with our rookie rankings and tiers. And we're going to start things off with a big trade in our new Best Ball League 12-team Superflex Tight End Premium Start 12 Best Ball. We had Hergot receiving the 108 and 308. And in turn, he gave King Weezy the 111 and 207. So, we're going to dive into the tiers of the rankings here, and we do see that the 108 and 111 have a tier break right around the 109 right now, and so I personally do like Hergot's side of this deal. Excuse me. It's personally like his side of the deal, jumping up a tier into the 108 range. I like where he's going. Getting up to the 108 gives him a possibility of even moving up further in the draft and increasing his hit rate of draft picks, which we'll get into later. But to give up to move down from the 207 to 308 isn't really that big of a deal when we're talking a best ball league. I like that it was nice and savvy, at least including that 308. Most people might just go about it and grab the 108, give up the 111 and 207, and call it a day. But Hergot was able to grab that second piece, which is important in best ball, to get as many pieces back as you're giving away. Because in best ball, you never know who's going to get into your starting lineup on a weekly basis. So you do want to have quality on your bench in best ball. All right. Now, it's not terrible for King Weezy. I'm not saying that it's a huge loss here, but I'm just saying that I kind of favor the Hergot side. There is, for my rankings at least, I've got a elite tier coming all the way down to the 109 in this draft that we've got coming up in just 24 days. Can you believe it? So this Thursday will mark, it'll be 3 weeks away from our big NFL draft of the 2024 season. And this year's class is, what can I say? It's amazing. If you're rebuilding, the pile of quarterbacks and wide receivers at the top of this draft is just unreal. I mean, we literally have maybe possibly 7 skill players that could get drafted in the top 10 of the NFL draft, which is literally, I can't recall a draft having that many skilled players. And it doesn't mean that the defensive players are that bad, like the pass rushers or offensive linemen. It's just that these quarterbacks in this draft are that good. And does that mean that they're necessarily all going to hit? No. I mean, we've had a couple of good draft classes for quarterbacks in the past few years, and we've seen them how their performances have gone. The Trevor Lawrence class also had Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and they haven't, they've performed okay, but some of the others in that class, they didn't pan out. And so it's not always a guarantee with the quarterbacks. I mean, the NFL scouts, I'm not an NFL scout, right? But as far as quarterbacks go, I might as well be, okay? Now at the other positions, I couldn't tell you why Rome Odunze is the third-rated wide receiver right now in the class. Malik Neighbors, I saw him in a couple of games last season, and he looked really good. I can't say why some people think he's better than Marvin Harrison, but I do say that he's safely in at the wide receiver 2. Now, if I want to go through that 101 to 109 tier, I want to loosely say that there's an elite level in that tier of 101 to 107, but I'm looking at this more today, at least, from a macro perspective, not a micro perspective. So I just want to give you an idea of what you can get for an early first if you're looking to deal it, what you could get for a mid first, what you can get for those late firsts, all right? Then move on down into the second, third, and even fourth rounds. So we're starting off at the top. We've got the 101 and 102 picks. Either Marvin Harrison or Caleb Williams. To me, it makes no difference who you take there. Just look at your team and roster and see whether you feel like a quarterback or a wide receiver is a better fit. All right. Then you move down and you got 103 down to 105. And I see Malik Neighbors, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels all fitting into that tier right now. Of course, this is all draft dependent. Again, we're just over 3 weeks away from it happening. But as of right now, this is where I would say these guys slide in. And then at 106 and 107, we've got Rome Odunze and Brock Bowers. So that would be what I would consider elite prospects. These guys would be at the top of any class over the last 5 years. We've got somebody at the top of with Marvin Harrison. His talent is, I haven't seen a prospect his level since Calvin Johnson. Okay, we've had Jamar Chase. We've had Justin Jefferson. And in that draft, there was CeeDee Lamb. But none of those guys had the prospect level of Marvin Harrison, as well as the pedigree and the talent that goes with him. I don't care if he ends up in New England. This guy's going to produce. I watched Calvin Johnson produce for years with crap before he finally got Matthew Stafford there. It was only a couple seasons, but I think you get my point. If you're that good, you're going to produce, regardless of your quarterback play. Now, after the 107, I still consider the 108 and 109 elite prospects in Brian Thomas and J.J. McCarthy. I don't love J.J. McCarthy, but new coach in L.A. for the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh, was able to wave his magic wand and create this stir for J.J. McCarthy, and it might end up having McCarthy go at the number 4 pick in the NFL draft, which coincidentally would just make Marvin Harrison happen to fall into his lap at number 5 for the Chargers. So I don't know if I wouldn't put it past Harbaugh trying to dream up this little scheme. He's no idiot. He created a monster in San Francisco as well as Michigan, and that's exactly what he's trying to do for the Chargers now in LA. After the 109, so we're at the 109, then we have a nice, solid tier break. And we go to tier number 2 of the 110, and I'm putting it down to the 204 right now. You could say 205-ish, 206 even. But that tier is a grouping of a lot of solid receivers, a couple quarterbacks, and then again at the bottom you could possibly put in a couple of running backs. The problem with running backs is right now we have no idea who the top running backs that will be drafted are exactly going to be. We can predict who a couple of them might be, but their draft ADP, as far as our rookie drafts go, will change depending on who actually ends up possibly getting selected in the second round for running backs. We're not going to have any drafted in the first round, but there are a couple that might get taken in the second round. So those I have at the beginning of the next tier for now, but that will definitely change if a couple of them get some nice solid landing spots in the NFL draft. So from 110 down to 204, I've got right now A.D. Mitchell, Bo Nix, Xavier Worthy, Michael Penix, Troy Franklin, Keon Coleman, and Ladd McConkey. Now, you can go ahead and rank those guys however you want. Really doesn't matter right now because most of us, at least I hope so, are not drafting actually until after the NFL draft. I don't care if you start that draft the night immediately after the last pick is made, but I really hope your draft is not happening prior to the NFL draft. Again, I'm no NFL scout. Most of you out there probably aren't either. And so I'm just saying, for me to try and rank these guys right now isn't something that is worth my time. I'm going to wait and see some landing spots, and then I might make a few adjustments. I know where the talent is and what I saw of them in college. So this is kind of how I've got them, just to get an idea in my head. And as far as action goes, this is the tier where I see the most action happening. I've got a trade for you to get things rolling. Actually, two trades that both involve Jalen Hurts, ironically, with the 108 and 109, along with a 26 first going to Foss and Hergot getting Jalen Hurts. Now, this was in a 12-team Superflex tight end premium start 10 lineup league, and gotta say that I definitely favor Hergot's side in this. If I was Foss, I definitely would have pushed for a higher pick. I know Hergot had the 102, and I think that he should have figured out a way to get that pick involved. At the 108 and 109, ironically, I had Brian Thomas and J.J. McCarthy in that tier together. Now, both of them could end up being superstars. I don't see J.J. McCarthy personally as someone more talented than maybe like a Ryan Tannehill type quarterback. Now, of course, he could end up being better. I don't know. But all we can use is the information we have currently. And the 108 and 109, I mean, if you tried to package those two up, I don't know if you could get to the 102. So that's all I'm saying. I get it, Foss wanted some draft capital, but I don't know if this is the way I would have gone about doing it. So a big swoosh to Hergot on this one. Now, the other deal involving Jalen Hurts was a stack deal. This one was in a 16-team Superflex tight end premium start 10 lineup league, and this one had Steve, otherwise known as Average Joe's in that league, getting Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown for Jared Goff, Deebo Samuel, 115, 215, 25 first, and 25 second, going over to Rob. Now, this one had two teams on opposite ends of the spectrum. Steve finished in second place last season. Rob just took over an orphan that was drained of all its draft capital, so I totally understand Rob's side of this deal. He got a slight bump if you take the keep trade cut value in this. Not really concerned though, like when you're dealing with top end talent like Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, you kind of, I'm not saying you throw the value out the window, but you do look at, again, a macro perspective and look at what you're doing with your roster here. He got rid of his two best assets here. And in return, he was able to get some solid players in Jared Goff and Deebo Samuel that he can use probably at a later time to deal off and get some younger talent or draft picks and help his rebuild process and get ready for a solid 2025 season. So I do understand Rob's process here. I think he's in the right direction. I also love Steve's end of this. So this, to me, is one of those dynasty specialties of a win-win situation for both guys. All right. next up, like I said, we've got the third tier players, which from now I'm ranking from picks 205 down to 212. All right, and in that range right now, I've got Trey Benson, Jonathan Brooks, Braylon Allen, Blake Corum, Roman Wilson, Jalen Pope, Jalen McMillan, and Xavier Legette. So we've got the top running back prospects in my mind right now, as well as some middling wide receivers in there. Now, this area is also a very nice area to use for trade bait, okay? Now, if you're a contending team, you might want to use picks from the tier before, that tier of 110 down to 204. I'd say anywhere from 201 down to 206 is a sweet spot that you can use if you're a contending team and go out and acquire some real solid producing veteran wide receivers. I'm talking the likes of Deontay Johnson, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Keenan Allen, Hollywood Brown, who with the Rashee Rice news may have even jumped this tier. I don't love Hollywood that much, and if we're being honest and looking from a micro perspective this time, with the Chiefs offense, Hollywood is a deep threat. Rashee Rice, I looked it up today, he didn't even have 10 targets over 20 yards last season. He was a screen machine last year, Rashee Rice. And so what I'm getting at is I don't know that Hollywood actually will benefit from this ordeal with Rashee Rice as some might think. So if you can go out and get, maybe you even just traded for Hollywood, but now you could turn around and flip him for even more. Or if you do have Mahomes on your roster and you got Hollywood, you can just kick back, relax, and take in the dividends that will come in the 24 season. Because although they play two different roles, Hollywood may get a few more deep targets now just because Mahomes has to do something with the ball. All right. So I'm just saying I don't expect Hollywood to go out and get 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns. Okay. He's not a top 5 wide receiver all of a sudden, but he could easily slide into the top 24 even now more safely. So what I want to tell you to do possibly with the 205 to 212 picks is you can try to start going after one of those receivers, like maybe Chris Godwin or somebody who might not have as much hype because he didn't just switch teams, whatever, or just sign a big contract like Mike Evans. So if you didn't do that, Chris Godwin is somebody who probably is going under the radar right now. I do think that he's still going to get decent volume in Tampa, so he's somebody who you may be able to acquire for one of these later 24 seconds. Now, I've got another deal to talk about. Not huge, but it is worth mentioning at least. This is from a 12-team Superflex Tight End Premium Start 9 lineup league. This one had Fantasy Godzilla obtaining the 210 from Is This DFS for ZMoss. Now, this just comes down to what you feel about ZMoss and your roster at this time. Now, if you really need some running back help, you can take a safer bet in ZMoss or roll the dice with the 210 and go after one of the rookie running backs. There's going to be 3, 4, 5 rookie running backs probably being drafted in our rookie drafts in the later end of the second round. So, do you want to... Now, the Bengals went out. They could have easily just grabbed another rookie, right? They already had Chase Brown. They could have grabbed a first and second down grinder like Braylon Allen or maybe Blake Corum, Jalen Wright, Marshawn Lloyd. Those guys are coming up in my rankings here. But instead they went and grabbed a veteran, which makes more sense to me for a team looking for a playoff run. When you're talking running backs, and this goes into why the Houston Texans acquired Joe Mixon from the Bengals, you want to have at least some solid presence in your backfield. Look at the Kansas City Chiefs and how long they've rode Jerick McKinnon. Every year it's like, oh, McKinnon, what's gonna happen with him? He still hasn't retired. I wouldn't be shocked at all if the Chiefs still have the same backfield next year of Isaiah Pacheco on first and second down and Jerick McKinnon running third down and even plays inside the 10. So what I'm getting at ultimately is if you're looking to win a Super Bowl, these NFL rosters are trying to construct a team that has some solid veteran leadership. And these rookie running backs that are coming in this season aren't exactly top tier. They're not terrible at the same time. But what I'm getting at is there's going to be a lot of rookie running backs available for you from, say, picks 201 all the way to the end of the third round. Which one of those is going to hit? I couldn't tell you. You could just pick all of the running backs in the third round, and they might all do better than the ones taken in the second round this year. Okay? There are a lot of dart throws, but these guys are all NFL ready. They are all, mostly at least, they're all over 200 pounds. A lot of them are 210, 220. Braylon Allen's even bigger than that. So I know the Dallas Cowboys are definitely probably grabbing someone. And ultimately, at least a couple of these guys are definitely going to pay off for you if you choose to go that route. Now, I know that in that deal, Fantasy Godzilla is definitely going into sort of a semi-rebuild, so I understand just wanting to get off of ZMoss. This deal had been done actually just prior to Moss signing with the Bengals, so it was a little risky on his DFS's side, but I think it's going to pay off for him because I think that Moss is looking like he'll be the first and second down grinder that Mixon was. And Chase Brown could remain in the same role he was in last year, just maybe getting a few more touches. They could be more like, say, what Pittsburgh has with Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. Okay? Now, moving along, we get to the top of the third round, and we have the first half of the third round. I've got picks 301 to 306. I've got Texas tight end J.T. Sanders, Tennessee running back Jalen Wright, USC running back Marshawn Lloyd, Ricky Pearsall from Florida, wide receiver, Spencer Rattler out of South Carolina at quarterback, and Audric Estime from Notre Dame at running back. So these guys, again, are more, once you get into the third and fourth rounds, you're looking more at dart throws. So again, I know I mentioned that running backs taken anywhere from beginning of the second round to the end of the third round are kind of dart throws. I'm just ranking these guys kind of based on how they performed at the combine and what their